These are the headlines we're following at this hour. The Marine who went missing while searching for victims of the recent torrential rain has been found dead. Recovery efforts continue as the country remains on alert despite respite from the rain. The leaders of South Korea, the U.S., and Japan will meet again next month amid increasing North Korean threats. The venue is said to be the U.S. presidential retreat, Camp David. President Yoon Suk-yeol makes a visit to a U.S. nuclear-capable submarine docked in Busan, highlighting the latest symbol of Seoul-Washington extended deterrence. Good afternoon. As the monsoon rain subsides in the nation, efforts continue nationwide to recover from the devastation caused by the recent torrential rain. While the official number of related deaths has risen to 46, there's another tragic death of a Marine who was apparently swept by torrent during a search and rescue operation. Our Moon Hae-ryun has the latest.
The body of a Marine who went missing during search and rescue operations due to heavy monsoon rains in South Korea has been found. Rescue workers found the body of the Marine corporal who was serving with the 1st Marine Infantry Division downstream of the Naseong Stream in Gyeongsangbuk-do Province late Wednesday night, 14 hours after he was reported missing. Marine Corps officials reported that he fell into the stream on Tuesday during a search operation, and a rescue party of some 270 people and several drones had been since working to recover his body. The military is set to investigate the details of the accident as well as supplementing safety measures for future search and rescue missions in heavy rain, after it was revealed that the Marines dispatched to Yecheon County at the time had not been wearing life jackets. This latest casualty brings the number of deaths caused by this year's monsoon to 47, while 4 people still remain missing as a result of heavy rains which have devastated the country for 2 weeks. 14 of those deaths came from the flooded tunnel in Oseong County, and an investigation will be launched today to see whether the levee served its purpose and the structure is strong enough to withstand water pressure. The Central Disaster and Safety Countermeasures Headquarters also reported that 35 people had been injured during the monsoon, with the highest number of casualties coming from Gyeongsangbuk-do Province and Chungcheong-do Province. More than 7,000 people were displaced from their homes over the past few weeks, with nearly half still unable to return home. The natural disaster alert levels remains at its highest level possible, while the Central Disaster Headquarters has lowered its response level to the lowest of the 3 levels of action that can be taken during a natural disaster as rains have subsided. The country will experience a heat wave on Thursday, with temperatures soaring to 31 degrees Celsius and high humidity making feels-like temperatures even higher. The Korea Meteorological Agency issued a heat wave warning for the northern regions of Gyeonggi-do Province and Gangwon-do Province, as well as advisories in the southern regions and Seoul. This heat wave is expected to last until Friday. Moon Hae-ryun, Arirang News.
President Yoon Suk-yeol will meet leaders of the U.S. and Japan next month, following multiple meetups that took place this year. But this time, the leaders will meet in a standalone summit at the secluded U.S. presidential retreat, Camp David. Our presidential office correspondent Oh Soo-young tells us more.
The leaders of South Korea, the United States and Japan will meet again next month for a summit at the U.S. presidential retreat of Camp David, amid ongoing challenges to regional and economic security. President Yoon Suk-yeol will reportedly meet his counterparts on August 18th, after U.S. leader Joe Biden proposed a stateside trilateral at the G7 summit in Hiroshima 2 months ago. The upcoming meeting marks the first standalone summit between the 3 countries, as previous sit-downs took place on the sidelines of other summits. It's also the first time for the US president to host foreign leaders at Camp David, which has been the site of several historic meetings and negotiations involving world leaders. The peaceful and secluded environment has fostered candid and constructive dialogues in the past, while the informal setting has promoted trust and understanding. So the question is, what will be discussed behind closed doors, and more importantly, what outcome will emerge from them? Yoon's principal deputy security advisor Kim Tae-ho hinted earlier this week that the 3 leaders would discuss security and economic cooperation among other agenda items. The meeting notably comes after South Korea resumed military intel sharing with Tokyo and forged a new nuclear consultative group with Washington, ramping up security cooperation with both regional partners amid North Korea's missile testing. The three countries have also been increasing bilateral as well as trilateral forms of economic and tech cooperation, reviewing ways to bolster semiconductor production, batteries, and supply chains of critical minerals. Observers expect the trilateral meeting to build on the leaders' pledge in Hiroshima to upgrade their cooperation to a new level in various areas, including in the sharing of missile warning data, their respective Indo-Pacific strategies, economic security, and engaging with Pacific Island nations. 오수영, Arirang News.
President Yoon Suk-yeol visited the country's port city of Busan, where he got on board a U.S. nuclear-capable submarine, highlighting the latest symbol of U.S. and U.S.-South Korea extended deterrence. Our Choi Min-jung has more.
A U.S. nuclear missile submarine arrived in South Korea this week for the first time since the 1980s.
As we speak, an American nuclear submarine is making port in Busan today. It's the first visit of an American nuclear submarine in decades.
The widely anticipated visit of the USS Kentucky comes in conjunction with the inaugural meeting of the Nuclear Consultative Group and one of the historic outcomes of the Washington Declaration adopted by Presidents Yoon Suk-yeol and Joe Biden.
The U.S. Kentucky's port visit in Busan reinforces the United States' enduring and ironclad commitment to extended deterrence and maintaining the capabilities necessary to ensure any nuclear attack by the DPRK against the ROC would be met with a swift, overwhelming, and decisive response.
On Wednesday afternoon, the U.S. hosted President Yoon on board the U.S. submarine in Busan. Yoon said he was relieved to see Washington's most important nuclear strategic asset with his own eyes. The president also sent a strong warning to North Korea.
이를 통해 북한이 핵 도발을 꿈꿀 수 없게 하고 만일 북한이 도발한다면 정권의 종말로 이어질 것임을 분명히 경고했습니다.
The presidential office says Yoon was the first foreign leader to tour the submarine. This demonstrates how close the allies are, as it is considered extremely unusual for a U.S. ballistic missile submarine, or SSBM, to make such a public call at a foreign military port. The 170-meter-long USS Kentucky is reportedly one of the three pillars of U.S. strategic assets. It is also capable of carrying over 20 submarine-launched ballistic missiles, which have a maximum range of 12,000 kilometers. The destructive power is approximately equivalent to 1,000 times the atomic bomb Washington dropped over Hiroshima during World War II. The deployment of the powerful asset in South Korea triggered the North to fire 2 short-range ballistic missiles into the East Sea just hours after the submarine's arrival. Choi Min-jung, Arirang News.
Top nuclear envoys of Seoul, Washington, and Tokyo will meet in Japan on Thursday to discuss North Korea's recent launch of its Hwasong-18 solid-fuel intercontinental ballistic missile. South Korea's Special Representative for Korean Peninsula Peace and Security Affairs, Kim Gun, will be sitting down with his counterparts from the U.S. and Japan, Song Kim and Takehiro Funakoshi. The three sides are reportedly set to discuss ways to counter North Korean threats and maintain close trilateral cooperation. Thursday's meeting follows their last sit-down in Seoul back in April. Now on to the latest on the U.S. soldier who crossed into North Korea. He's believed to be in custody, but North Korea remains unresponsive to Washington's calls to verify his status. Lee Seung-jae has the latest.
According to U.S. State Department spokesperson Matthew Miller on Wednesday, the U.S. continues to reach out to North Korea to try to verify the status of the U.S. soldier who defected to the North, but to no avail.
In terms of contacts with foreign governments, yesterday the Pentagon reached out to counterparts in the Korean People's Army. My understanding is that those communications have not yet been answered.
The spokesperson says while Washington has a number of channels through which it can contact Pyongyang, he would not go into the details of the matter due to its sensitivity, but added that they have been in contact with their counterparts in South Korea and Sweden, which acts as a diplomatic channel between Washington and Pyongyang. Miller also stressed that both the U.S. and the UN are working together to gather information on Private Travis King, including his well-being and whereabouts, adding that Washington will continue to work to ensure his safety and return him home to his family. Meanwhile, a tourist from New Zealand who was on the same tour from which the U.S. soldier defected to North Korea shared her story of what exactly happened on the day.
It all happened pretty quickly. I probably only saw him running for like a few seconds, and that's all it would have taken to get across the border. And then, a couple of seconds after I saw him, that's when the soldiers shouted and started running after him. And then they told us to get in the building. So it was all a bit of a scramble, and it all happened very quickly.
It still remains a mystery as to how King was able to join the tour, as those wishing to participate usually have to submit their passport information in advance. According to one tour company, King could have booked the tour through a special tour run by the United Service Organizations, an organization dedicated to U.S. service members and family. It added that as the USO operates an information desk at Incheon International Airport, he could have made a last-minute reservation for the tour. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
In its latest efforts to boost global competitiveness, South Korea is gearing up to foster more startups with valuations over $1 billion, known as unicorn companies. Our Lee Soo-jin tells us more on how.
South Korea's unicorn startups boast cutting-edge technologies that have been recognized globally, but investment in the nation's startups have been plunging. During the first half of this year, $1.8 billion was invested in domestic startups. This is nearly 70% lower compared to the previous year. The fall in investment has made it difficult for startups to get private funding for their businesses. The Ministry of SMEs and Startups program that helps startups get bank loans through its public guarantee institution is thus receiving more attention.
So the selected firms will be provided the guarantee of up to 20 billion won by Korea Technology Finance Corporation.
One of the 15 companies selected this year was gov't, a company slated to become the nation's first food and beverage unicorn startup.
Times like this, it's very difficult to source capital in the market, so we are very fortunate that.
According to the ministry, gov't was chosen for its advanced food technology. It uses AI to monitor the entire process of putting toppings on pizza to maintain the same quality across all stores. It also uses automated cutting technology, minimizing the amount of human labor needed. Many companies have benefited from this program since its launch in 2019. One company that achieved unicorn status is Tikbang, which provides 3D virtual tours of apartments available for rent.
It helped us greatly financially. It provided us an opportunity to secure long-term funds, and because it meant that our potential was recognized by the government, it helped us draw more investment.
And this year, the ministry is also focusing on ways to help companies enter foreign markets and attract global investors.
We will give companies the opportunity to participate in global IR.
There is still much that can be done, though.
When startups go overseas, there's nobody to help them. We don't even have an office. It's very difficult to source new human resources.
He said that having government-supported facilities overseas where startups can receive consultations could be helpful. If the government continues to expand on its current measures, South Korea could see even more innovative unicorn startups in the future. Lee Soo-jin, Arirang News.
South Korean actress Song Hye-kyo has won the grand prize at this year's Bluedragon Series Awards, which recognized the best original Korean shows on streaming services. Song received the event's highest honor on Wednesday evening in Incheon for her starring role in the Netflix original series The Glory. Her co-star Im Ji-yeon was named Best Supporting Actress. The Best Drama prize went to Disney Plus' Big Bad, while Netflix's Siren Survived the Island was awarded Best Entertainment Program. A total of 16 trophies were presented this year for shows released between May 22 and May 2023. The 2023 FIFA Women's World Cup officially kicks off on Thursday. Co-host New Zealand get things underway, taking on Norway at Auckland's Eden Park at 7 p.m. local time. 32 countries are taking part in the tournament, which is being held in Australia and New Zealand. South Korea, led by head coach Colin Bell, are in Group H and will play their first game against Colombia on Tuesday, July 25th. South Korea's other group stage matches are against Morocco and Germany. Meanwhile, following the shooting incident in Auckland on Wednesday, the New Zealand government has made reassurances that it is committed to enhancing security measures. On the other side of the globe, extreme heat waves are sweeping the U.S. and Europe. Experts warn the scorching temperatures will become the new norm amid the climate change. Our Ian Jin has the details.
A massive heat wave is sweeping much of Europe. Parts of Italy, Greece, France, and Spain have seen several days of temperatures around 40 degrees Celsius, which has prompted local authorities to issue red alerts. These warnings suggest that the heat poses a threat to not only vulnerable groups, but to everybody. The heat wave is expected to have a negative effect on Europe's busy summer tourist season, with several popular locations in the affected areas either seeing reduced operating hours or closures. Other tourist destinations, such as Spain's Canary Islands, are even worse off, with thousands being evacuated in La Palma as the ongoing heat wave exacerbates wildfires there. Wildfires are also raging across the continent, including in Greece and the Swiss Alps. The World Meteorological Organization has warned that the heat wave in Europe could continue into August. In the United States, heat alerts are in effect from California to Florida. The brutal hot air remains trapped, baking the southern half of the country because of what's called a heat dome, when a high-pressure circulation in the atmosphere acts like a dome, trapping the heat. Heat advisories or excessive heat warnings have been issued in 16 states, with the National Weather Service warning that extreme heat and humidity will significantly increase the potential for heat-related illnesses. Actual air temperatures in parts of the Southwest are expected to top 49 degrees Celsius, while states along the Gulf Coast and Southeast could exceed 44 degrees. In 2021, the global insurance giant Swiss Re released a study looking into the overall impact of climate change on the global economy. The study found that continued disastrous effects of scorching heat waves could bring losses costing as much as 11 to 14% of global economic output by 2050. This was based on a scenario where global temperatures rise by as much as 2.6 degrees above pre-industrial levels. Ian Jin, Arirang News.
Let's take a look at what's going on in the world now. On the Crimean Peninsula, over 2,000 people have been evacuated following an explosion and fire at a Russian ammunition depot. The initial blast occurred on Wednesday in the Khabarovsk district, and smaller blasts were heard from the facility for 6 hours afterwards. The cause is still unknown. It follows 2 days of Russian airstrikes on Ukraine's port city of Odesa. There, grain facilities, oil storage tanks, and machinery was struck by cruise missiles and drones. Local officials say that infrastructure at the Black Sea port city has been damaged and several residents have been wounded. These are in retaliation for an attack on the bridge linking the Russian mainland to the annexed Crimean Peninsula. Moscow has blamed Kyiv for the attack, but Kyiv has not officially claimed responsibility. In related news, a video released on Wednesday appears to show the Wagner mercenary group leader Yevgeny Prigozhin in Belarus. In what may be his first sighting since his attempted mutiny in Russia in June, a man resembling Prigozhin is seen welcoming Wagner fighters and describing Russia's frontline in Ukraine as a disgrace. He also hinted that the group's stay in Belarus could be temporary and that they may move elsewhere or rejoin the war in Ukraine at a later date. Prigozhin's whereabouts have been unknown since he accepted an offer to move to Belarus and for charges against him to be dropped in exchange for ending the mutiny. The video is also in line with reports that Wagner fighters are working as military instructors for the Belarusian army. New York City is set to distribute flies to migrants at the US-Mexico border, asking them to consider another city. The city's mayor's office said on Wednesday that it is struggling to find shelter for over 100,000 people, more than half of whom are migrants. The city says the flyers will combat misinformation at the border and that it will help migrants find other housing. NYC will also give asylum seekers who have stayed in the city's municipal shelters for over 2 months a 60-day notice to find another place to stay. Since last spring, the city has opened an additional 188 facilities, including church basements, gymnasiums, warehouses, and vacant office buildings to shelter asylum seekers. And finally, a building in India has become the world's largest office. After taking over 4 years to build, the 15-floor Surat Diamond Burse will be officially inaugurated by India's Prime Minister in November. It's spread over 140,000 square meters, about the size of 20 football fields, and consists of 9 interconnected rectangles. The massive office is located in Surat, which is one of the gem capitals of the world, as it cuts 90% of the globe's diamonds. The office will host over 65,000 gem professionals specializing in cutting, polishing, and trading. The title of the world's largest office had been held for more than 80 years by the US Pentagon. Matthew Ashley, Arirang News.
Good afternoon. Heat safety is a must today. We're having very hot weather across Korea with heat advisories in place. Heat warnings are in place for the south and east of Seoul, which usually get issued around this time, with Jungbok and Daesa known to be the peak of the hottest time of the year right around the corner. Meanwhile, strong sunshine is boosting UV rays to a very high level in most regions, with some of the south coast seeing the highest UV level. Don't forget your sun protection today. And there will be passing rain of 5 to 40 millimeters in Gangwon-do and the south of inland areas, along with thunderstorms and strong winds during the day today. Highs in most parts are around 33 degrees Celsius, and feels like temperatures are slightly higher with that high humidity. And please, those taking part in restoration work in flood hit areas need to stay safe in the high heat. The monsoonal front returns later on Saturday, dropping showers into early next week. That's Korea for you, and here's a look at the international weather conditions.
And we once again bring our focus on the Marine who died in search and rescue efforts following the extreme rain. He was 20 years old and was an only child. His mother told the media that her son had always wanted to serve his mandatory military service in the Marine Corps. And he did, though the mother tried to stop him. His father recalls what became his last call with the son. He told him, "Stay safe." An investigation is underway into what happened to the lance corporal, whose life was far too young to be swept away. That is all for today. Thank you so much for watching.